Okay, welcome to this course called Fundamentals of Psychology, Sociology, and Politics. What comes to mind when you hear the word psychology? However, welcome you all. I'm excited to have you on this journey into this fascinating world of psychology. In this course, we introduce you to the scientific study of human behavior and mental processes, a field that touches every aspect of our life. It's very important to understand these aspects because you are going to deal with people in the workplace. Whether you are here because you are curious about why or how people think and act the way they do, or because this course is required for your CIPM program of studies, or you have come to the right place. Psychology will give you the tools to understand yourself, first of all, and also to understand others. It's very significant. We take every bit of this course very important. However, we are going to look at our learning objective. What is expected of us? By the time you complete this chapter, you'll be able and understand how to define psychology. You'll be able to explain how its meaning has evolved over time. It is important for you to explain and identify the four primary goals of psychology: the history of psychological development from philosophy to science. You will be able to describe the major schools of thought. You'll be able to make some evaluation and also apply psychological concept to real world situation. Also, you'll be able to distinguish between the different approaches of understanding human behavior. These are key because in dealing with people, you'll be able to have the tools necessary to understand them as a people manager. So let's go into the introduction and definition of psychology. The origin of the word psychology. The term psychology comes from two scientific Greek words: psyche, which means translate to soul, breath, or mind, breath of life. Of course, logos, we are familiar with logos, which means knowledge or study of. So literally, psychology means the study of soul or the study of the mind. In the earliest usage of the word psychology, it was concerned with understanding the very essence of human existence, the immaterial parts of us that was thought to be governed through feeling or action. So how did the definition of psychology evolve over time? The way psychologists have been identified came through various ages. We have the ancient period, and their focus on psychology was the study of soul. And why do this matter? It matters because philosophical speculation were concerned with the essence of human existence. In about 17th to 18th century, the focus shifted to the study of mind, no longer soul. Why? Because mental philosophy focuses on consciousness and introspection. In the late 19th century, the definition or the focus changes to the study of conscious experience. And why do conscious experience matter? It was from the study, the research of Wundt's scientific approach, defining the mind as as a systematic entity. So this study keep on evolving to the 20th century, where the study has shifted as the study of behavior. Phantom behaviorism only observe actions. So when you observe actions of human person, you can be able to see some pattern of behavior. In the mid-20th century, the study of behavior and mental processes became very important because emphasis was on the cognitive revolution that brings the mind back. In contemporary studies, we now look at it as a scientific study of behavior and mental processes. So today, we look at psychology from the contemporary definition. That means psychology is a scientific study of human and animal behavior, including mental processes. Let's break down what this means. The word scientific was used. Psychology relies on systematic empirical method. This means collecting data through observation and experimentation, testing hypotheses, educated guess with evidence, also using statistics to analyze results, publishing findings so others can also verify them. This makes psychology scientific. Psychology is not based on intuition or common sense or speculation alone. Why, for example, your grandmother advice might be wise, it is not psychological science until it has been tested systematically. That is where we bring in psychology as a scientific study. Now, another key word in that definition is behavior. Behavior, what does that entail? This refers to observable action. Anything an organism does that can be directly measured or referred to. For example, an example of behavior could include talking and laughing, walking across a room, eating and drinking. Psychological responses like heart rate changes or sweating. These are behavior. Another key word in our definition is mental process. These are internal subjective experience that cannot be directly observed but must be inferred from the response of behavior. Examples of such mental processes include remembering past events, perceiving the world around us, or making decisions. Another key word that came from our definition is human and animal. While psychological or psychology focuses primarily on human, studying animal behavior provides valuable insight into fundamental processes that may apply across species. For example, research on rats primate has taught us a great deal about learning, about memory, and even social behavior. Let's go on to why this matter. Why do psychology matter? And what are the approaches or insights we can have from psychology and the differences we have in psychology? We will look at what is considered as folk psychology and scientific psychology. You have heard in the past, for example, someone say, people only use 10% of their brain, or opposite attract a relationship. These are examples of what you consider as folk psychology. It's a common belief that sounds plausible but haven't been scientifically tested or verified. But we use them in our everyday life and tend to believe them. When psychologists actually study these claims, they often find them to be what we call myth. So folk psychology rely on anecdotal evidence. For example, my cousin tried this and it worked. Or on tradition, we have always believed this to be so. Or personal experience. These are considered as folk psychology. On the other hand, we have what is called scientific psychology, which relies on systematic observation, a controlled experiment, scientific analysis, pre-review, and verification. So this makes the difference between folk psychology myth that can be verified with scientific psychology that can be verified and repeated. Let's look at Nigeria context. Psychology in the Nigeria context. Research has shown that students in Nigeria university gradually understand psychology's scientific identity. One study found that approximately about 80% of undergraduate students surveyed could accurately define psychology as the scientific study of human and animal behavior for the purpose of understanding, predicting, and controlling behavior. As scholars may have observed, psychology in Nigeria tends to be more problem-oriented than theory-oriented. This means Nigerian psychologists often focus on addressing practical challenges facing society, mental health, educational achievement, community development, rather than developing abstract theories. This applied focus reflects psychology commitment to using scientific knowledge to make real-world difference in people's life. And here you are as a would-be human resource personnel, a people manager. This course is meant for you. A key takeaway you will have from this introduction is, for example, what is psychology? You will come to understand that the word psychology comes from the Greek root meaning, the study of soul. The definition has evolved over time from studying the soul to the mind to behavior and mental processes. While contemporary definition of psychology is now the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Psychology is scientific. Why? Because it relies on systematic method, not on intuition. Psychology addresses both observable action, behavior, and internal experience, mental processes. Scientific psychology differs from folk psychology, which rely on common sense. In Nigeria, psychology has strongly helped in problem solving. And here you are to understand this course, to continue solving problems in people's management. So you are going to reflect and connect in this introduction. You will think about a common belief about human behavior that you have heard, maybe from family, from friends, or even from your workplace. Then, how might a psychologist study that belief scientifically? What would they need to observe or measure? For you, a human research practitioner, look in your organization and make certain understand or know certain observation, study them, analyze them. That way, you make a difference in your people's management. Psychology is offered to you to understand and apply in the workplace. We have the four core goals of psychology. Now that you have known what psychology is as the scientific study of behavior and mental process, what we need to ask now or ask you is, what do psychology actually do? What are they trying to accomplish? And what would you, a will-be human resource, satisfied human resource person, accomplish with this course? Psychologists pursue four primary goals in their work. These goals provide a framework for all psychological research and practice. Goal number one, description. Description means observing and documenting behavior in an objective, systematic way. Before psychologists can explain why something happens, they first need to know exactly what is happening. Description involves careful observation and measurement. You, as a would-be human resource practitioner, you will be able to have or develop this skill of description. And what are the methods that will enhance you to be able to describe? For example, naturalistic observation. We observe, we see things. Staff come to work, staff go home after work. There's a routine in our workplace. Be able to observe. The ability to observe will help you. You'll be observing behavior in real world setting without interfering. You know that as a human resource person, most employees are under their line manager. But then you'll be there, both the manager and other employees are under your watch. For example, you'll be very careful and keen to know how staff come to work and how they go, or even how they behave at workplace. Do they loiter around? Do they gossip around? Yes, you might not be the direct supervisor of the staff, but your eye, your watch will be over all the staff. This helps you. Another is a case study. In-depth examination of one person or small group. So your ability to have an in-depth look of things around you among managers, even in meetings, and also solving. Sometimes you take analysis. You can tell a staff, look at timesheet, can give you a solving approach. Every Monday and Tuesday, you come to work late. Why? Every morning you come to work late. From time you can observe that there is a survey kind of data. And the staff cannot tell you, madam, I always travel to the village on Friday. So on Monday, sometimes I don't get bus or vehicle on time. So this is a way you use description, a psychological tool, even in your workplace. So we have what can be considered psychological tests. You measure scientific attributes like intelligence or personality. Example, administering personality inventory. Because at the end of the year, you are going to evaluate your staff. There are certain things that putting your eye down will enable you to see and to understand. And when those things become repetitive, you can now ask questions. In a real world example, imagine a psychologist wants to understand the study habit of, let's say, a university student in Lagos. They might distribute a survey asking questions like, how many hours do you study per week, for example? Where do you typically study? Beside your bed, in the library, you know? Do you study alone or in group? What technique do you use in study? Is it like a flashcard or you read? The resulting data will provide a description of study habit. So you can also deploy that with managers who have a manager can come say staff A, he give me problem. I want him or her to be changed. You ask manager, what actually has he or she done? HR, don't ask me that. I have said, give me trouble. That is not enough. That's again, sir, what actually has he or she done? The manager cannot pinpoint because most often the manager acts with emotion, have not taken time to observe, have not taken time to make survey, have not taken time to put down to see repetitive event that you can say, HR, please help me with staff A. He often not do his work well. He often submit his work late. And HR asks you, what do you think could be the cause? You'll be able to have adequate observation and perhaps some written survey that can buttress your fact of description. So we are not studying this course to be a psychologist in one clinic. No. We are studying to understand how to manage people. So description is one, and we have given you enough details and approach to description. So the second goal, primary goal of psychology is explanation. Once behavior has been described, psychologists seek to explain why it occurs. Example I have given you. Staff A gives me problem. Give me problem. What has he done? I want to change. You ask the line manager. He said a lot of things. What is it? The manager have not been able to really describe what the staff have done. And if he do, the next is that to explain why do he behave that way. So explanation is another primary goal of psychology. Having described, we'll go into explanation. And this will involve, for example, testing your hypothesis through your research. You have observed he comes to work late. You have observed that he doesn't complete his task on time. You have observed that. So identifying what factors are genuinely responsible for that behavior. Is it that a laptop is a very unhealthy laptop? Is it a network problem? So ability to explain what could be the cause is very important. So building on description of study habit, like we mentioned for the student we use in an earlier example, building on that. So psychologists or a would-be HR might notice that some students on stand staff have high grade or are performing staff. You're able to discover that. So this is just hypothesis. So for that of Lagos State University based on student, what will you do? What you will do is you identify, you make identification. Who study in group and who study alone. You compare the grade point. You have a control for other variables that might affect the grade. So to bring it to work scenario, there are 5 in the department under measure A. Be able to see why staff A is different. Why is he lagging behind? Is there cooperation in the unit? Is there a synergy? So we are trying this course to help line managers have adequate understanding, not pushing away the staff alone. You step in, be able to describe what the case is, be able to explain why is it so, what are the causal agents, be able to triangulate with other team members to be able to have an adequate understanding because you are a people's manager. The next goal we are going to look into is prediction. If psychologists can identify factors that reliably precede or could correlate with certain behavior, they can also predict when those behaviors are likely to occur in the future. Prediction allows psychologists to anticipate behavior based on already known conditions. This is valuable for identifying people who might be a risk for problem. You start to apply intervention, understanding natural pattern of behavior. So in the workplace, in the department, among team members, because you have able to identify and explain certain behavior, you can predict. For example, some holiday, Christmas holidays, you can know that most often after short holidays, staff don't resume as at Wednesday. Or you can predict most often when salary is being paid, staff will resign. They won't give 1 month notice. And before that happens, there will be some unlikely behavior that will be occurring towards that time. Staff start coming late unusually, start having issues. Little do you know he's already fed up, he's tired. So as a human resource person who have understood this course, with the description, with the explanation, you can predict. You can even predict and intervene before it gets too bad. So if our psychology research consider shows that students who participate in group learning have higher grades, they can make prediction. A staff who constantly have problem with his manager, this prediction there that he may likely resign. Because the manager could not really know what the problem is, could not describe the problem, could not even try to mitigate by explaining. He only say, I don't want to work with A. I am tired of B. What has he or she done? Could not pinpoint exactly what he or she have done. So this is where we help line managers. These 4 goals we have just mentioned, description, explanation, prediction, will help us. And the 4th goal is control and influence. The 4th goal is control or influence. And it's the most powerful and potentially, you'll be able to mitigate. So this knowledge will help you modify behavior that is beneficial. What does control mean? Control involves reducing the impact because you have noticed that you step in to mitigate. So control is very significant. And how do we apply control? Let's see a bit of control, the 4 goals of psychology, how we can apply it. In education, for example, designing teaching methods that improve learning. Because you have some understanding by way of description, explanation, where the problems are. Okay, in workplace, for example, creating incentive that boosts productivity. In personal life, taking self-regulated techniques. So control is a mitigating factor. When you describe, when you explain, when you predict, you therefore ensure it's a control that will mitigate the situation. For example, in Nigeria, there are research examples we can look at. Recent research in Nigeria has demonstrated that effectiveness of psychological intervention or studies have shown that both goal-setting training and relational intelligence training significantly foster the success of an organization among small-scale business owners. Goal-setting training, relational intelligence training have helped to enhance success in small-scale business owner. Participants who received training showed measurable improvement in their business. Because you have something to count on. Goal setting. You have something to look up to. Intelligence training. These have helped. Because you are dealing with human persons as customers, human persons as staff. Also, research with first-year university students found that skill training and goal setting effectively enhance academic motivation. Students say, okay, I registered for 4 courses. I'm going to have A in all of them. Or even you, the CPA student, I'm going to have A. How do I go about it? I'm going to make use of my LMS. I'm going to listen to all the video. I'm going to do my test. I'm going to ask questions during the learning process. I'm going to take note. These are things that are benchmark that will facilitate your effort. So having said this, we move on. Application in communities. Organization, some organizations have implemented programs such as the Big Dream or Reach for Star. What does it mean? They only empowered some children in the community. Empowerment. So when you do that, you bring in motivation. You bring in what can be considered as employment branding. So these are strategic approach. Even you, where you work, there are some bonuses, there are some lag timing, there's some free work from home. There's a way the workplace will be. You will see yourself get involved. It's just psychological. Even when sometimes pay is not so big, but other friend benefit, the other freedom you have, the other relationship you have with manager, with other staff. So all these are what psychology will help us to do because we deal with people. So some scholars have identified a fifth goal. They will mention four of them. We mention description, we mention explanation, we mention prediction and control or influence. But studies have shown that some scholars say there's a fifth goal. A fifth goal. And what do they consider as that fifth goal? He only says using psychological knowledge to address practical problems in diverse ways. Having said all of these, mentioning them as description, explanation, prediction, or control. The fifth goal is a summation that simply say your understanding of psychology in general will help you in various applications in education, improving teaching method and learning outcome. In workplace, improving employee engagement and motivation. In community, design community program that addresses social issues. So this is what psychology will do for you because you have understood human behavior. You have understood mental process. Having known this, you'll be able to manage people effectively. So let us summarize the four goals we have just described. We say goal number one is description. And what question does it answer? Description answer or what is happening. What is the problem? So, and what does it involve? It involves observing and documenting behavior. A line man cannot just say, I don't want staff A. And the teacher say, what has he done? I don't tire. What has he done? You cannot be able to present a documentation of his behavior. You have observed over time, and it's true. When you observe it, people don't change easily except they are being guided or it's being pointed out. If you have not pointed it out, you can't handle it. And when it is pointed out, you have observed it, you have documented the behavior, you have pointed it out. The next question is explanation as the second goal. But why is it happening? I thought that this staff is good. When we hired him or her, you say you wanted the staff. What's happening? And that will lead us to identifying the causes or the factor of why staff A has suddenly be behaving the way he's behaving. So we are going this approach to help the citizen because we are line managers and also the HR, people manager. Prediction, you can predict when it happened. When will it happen again? You can know that. And what do? You begin to anticipate future behavior or response. You bring in control. How can we change this? How do we modify the behavior to positive outcome? So we have come to the end of this introduction. So see you in the next module. So perhaps there will be some question. You can share question in the comment section. My name is Hilary Okoli, one of the consultants in HIPAT HR Consult. Invite your friends to join our learning platform. Visit our YouTube channel and learn more. Thank you for joining HIPAT HR Consult. Thank you for joining HIPAT HR Study Center, one of the best HR Study Center in Nigeria. Thank you. Bye.